Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop. Tonight, somebody who did me a real solid. I got Jason here from Kentucky Sustainable Living. He really reached out to me because, well, here we are. If you can hear me, my voice is still sounding kind of like a 14-year-old prepubescent boy. And Jason said, hey, I know you moved people around and you canceled interviews because you were supposed to be away. And he said, hey, I'll come on if you want. Man, grab life by the horns and friggin' run with it. So how are you, Jason?
I'm doing real good. I've been taking it easy today, working in the shop and working on my comm center down in the shop today and taking it easy.
Nice.
Hey Tim, I'm getting some feedback, like a
Are you,
double.
do you have YouTube open in the background on anything?
Yeah, but it's muted.
It might be that. It's okay.
Let me see.
Sure, you go ahead. Hey, we got Appalachian Woman 77. That's funny. We never got it till we went live. It's got to be something streaming in the background there, maybe.
All right.
How you doing?
Yeah, it's still stinking doing it. I've got everything muted.
That's all right. You can close YouTube in the background if you want as well. It won't hurt you.
Okay. Everything's closed out now.
You still getting feedback?
Yeah, still getting it.
Poor guy. It's not coming through on the recording at all.
Well, okay. We'll live with it, I guess.
If it gets too bad, we can start over or something. So, and there you go. So tell us, and it might be coming through on your speakers too. So yeah, one step closer says, have you tried turning it off and on again? Yeah, every time, right? So this is what happens when we're live, guys. We do a test before we start. Everything works great. And then she goes all wonky on us. There we go. We lost him now, folks. No.
All right, I will. Hold on a second.
Yeah, you go ahead. Holler at me when you're ready.
All right, let's go on.
You good now?
Yes, we're good.
All right. So,
good. Yes.
Why don't you share with the workshop community, Jason? Who is Jason? What the hell is Kentucky Sustainable Living? And where'd you come from?
I'm Jason. Me and a couple other guys started Kentucky Sustainable Living a couple years ago with the premise of pretty much building community and connecting like-minded people in the state of Kentucky. I mean, I saw it. A lot of people are doing it on the big nationwide scale. And I'm like, why can't we do it just for Kentucky residents? So we started doing that, organized. There was a few of us, just word of mouth started with that. So I'm like, we need to get the word out a little bit more. So started a Facebook group, and it's grown to about almost 900 people now. And
wow.
Yeah, we've got a smaller group within that group of vetted individuals that we've done background checks and kind of checked them out to where we don't get a bunch of undesirables, I guess you could say, in there. And it just keeps growing every day. And we're trying to build a community in Kentucky to where we can rely on each other. Essentially, kind of a statewide MAG, mutual assistance group is kind of what it's become into. We all think alike. We do meetings and trainings. Pretty soon, we're going to start killing some pigs and doing some butchery classes, showing people how to butcher animals. We do like a homestead security classes for people.
Nice.
That's something we've got some retired and active duty military members, and they like to do homestead security. And it's some of the times it's stuff that nobody really thinks about. It's like, oh yeah, maybe I should do this. Hell, we've done all kinds of stuff, canning classes, medical classes. One of the biggest classes we did was soap making. And
really?
we had a huge turnout, and people wanted to know how to make homemade soap. And so we had one of our members, she makes soap, and she came out and showed everybody how to make soap that day, and we got our hands dirty making soap.
Yes, sir. Had you made soap before? You yourself?
I had not made soap before, and she came out and we made a loaf of soap right there in the shop. And I'm like, man, this is not any kind of magic and fairy dust. It's pretty simple stuff. So
about 3 years ago, me and the girls made it with just leftover bacon grease. And we had, that and, lye for cleaning out the drains.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what my wife bought all the stuff off Amazon, and she was like, "I'm going to try this." And she made soap and told her mom about it, and her mom told all her friends, and her mom's parents' friends bought her out of everything she had for Christmas. And
That's
she's
awesome.
like, I didn't even get to use any.
It's a good problem to have, you know.
Yeah.
Goofy Roofy said Prepper Nurse One is doing something very similar to that in West Virginia. I think talking about the kind of statewide mutual assistance thing or whatever.
I would be interested in talking to her. I need to find her then.
Yeah, I always love whenever people make connections like that. That's great. So let's slide back a little ways. Whenever people come into the workshop, I always like to get a little of their background. So where'd you grow up? And I always ask, like, what was your first job you did in high school, junior high, however far back you go?
I've lived in Kentucky my whole life, pretty much lived in Warren County, Kentucky my whole life. Hadn't lived anywhere else. First job was on a farm, helping the guys, some of the farmers from church. We would haul hay, cut tobacco, work cows, do all that stuff. That's first job that I ever made any money on.
I got to see tobacco fields for the first time when I drove down to Camden. I come through Kentucky there. I think, yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah. And I looked, I didn't quite recognize it because I had never seen it as a crop in the field before. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
It did. Well, they weren't, they weren't smoke curing anything. They fire cure some of the tobacco, some of the dark tobacco. They'll hang it in the barn after they cut it. They'll hang it, and then they take sawdust on the barn floor and light it on fire where it just smolders. And first time I saw it, I was like, holy crap, this tobacco barn's on fire.
Yeah.
One of the guys was like, no, they're just smoke curing that. So I'm like, okay.
Did not know that. Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, but it'll throw you for a loop when you see smoke rolling out of a tobacco barn. You're like, holy crap.
Look like a Cheech and Chong movie, but a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do? We got some similarities, some things in common. So what do you do for a living?
I'm a general contractor. We mostly do kitchen and bathroom remodeling is what we kind of specialize in, but we do all different types of stuff. I've got several plumbing companies that we do work for, go in, patch and drywall, stuff like that. It kind of varies. I started off my contracting stuff in decorative concrete. We did nothing but decorative concrete work, stamp work, acid stains, all that. I finally got tired of it because it was nothing but a bunch of drunks and drug heads that worked for you. And I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm going to start doing general contracting and be done with all these guys.
I never met, I hate to say it, but every cement guy I've ever met is, like you said, either likes his booze or he likes his pills or his dope or whatever it happens to be. And they tend to do the best work you'll ever see if you can get them to show up.
Oh, yeah. I had one guy, he would come out every day, and I didn't know it for a while. I had to pick him up one day. He came out with 2 40-ounce Budweisers in his hand. And I said, what the hell are you doing? He goes, I'm drinking breakfast. And I was like, is this like a new thing? He goes, no, I do this every morning. And I was like, you just lost your job. We're not doing this crap.
Wow. And
so
they think it's, I don't know.
I didn't understand it. And I'm like, we're not going to have this going.
They are a special kind of special. I've met a few of them. My God.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, 10 plus years ago, I was finally like, I'm done with it. And that's when I started doing kitchen and bathroom remodels. And it's been great ever since. I don't have to worry about having 2 crews of guys, anywhere from 5 to 7 guys working for you at once. It's just, it's a lot easier on me.
So is it just you, or do you have some workers too, or no?
I've got a couple boys that help me part-time when I need them. I can call them up and say they kind of do their own thing, but when I need some help, I can call them up and say, hey, help me for a day or two. And if it's something too big and something that I can't specialize in, we'll just sub everything. We'll just sub that part of it out.
So you've learned the same lesson that, hiring other guys or having a bunch of guys on your payroll. I'm of the opinion it don't make you any more money. It just makes you more headaches.
Yeah. I looked at the numbers. I don't bring in as much money, but percentage wise, I make just as much, if not more money.
Absolutely.
And that's what you got to look at.
I get people mention to me all the time. They're like, Well, I turned down, I bet you, since I picked up them big snow customers, I've turned down probably 20 more snow customers, and people say, well, why don't you hire another guy? Well, I said, that means I need to almost double the amount of work that I'm looking after to make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me,
Oh yeah, and it's just and like I've said before, I've said at times, not just in the preparedness aspect, but even in work, you're the only person that you can count on.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, and you're going to work a hell of a lot harder than that guy that you're paying. I mean, you're going to make sure the job gets done and the customer's happy. That guy can go get another job tomorrow. And his reputation, he doesn't really care about his reputation because he can tell the next guy, oh yeah, I'm the best thing since sliced bread, but I can't go get another job tomorrow if I ruin my reputation. So you've got to make sure yours is good.
That's good, man. You're right. What do you like do? What's your favorite things, your best money makers, that kind of stuff?
Probably one of the best money makers is painting. We can spray. We've done a lot of spray work in commercial buildings, and man, you can flat run through some paint and run through some square footage on painting stuff. We did several years ago. We painted an 8,000 square foot building. Just painted the roof deck and all the bar trusses and everything like that. It was a day and a half job. So to paint 8,000 feet, painted it off a scissor lift. And I was like, we're making some stinking money on this. I had a boy on the ground helping move the paint sprayer as I drove the lift along, but you can make some killer money doing that.
Now, here's a question. Is that your scissor lift or did you have to rent one?
I rented it, and it was only $100 a day when we rented it.
Because around here, the places won't rent to you if you're painting. It drives me nuts because they're worried you're going to get it all covered in paint, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've tried. They won't ladders, buckets, scissor lifts, none of that stuff they'll rent because they're worried you're going to get paint all over it.
Really? We just took it and we put a little bit of plastic on there just to protect it. And then when we were done with it, every day we took like a gallon of goof off and just sprayed the thing down with that and hosed it down. It came right off.
I love that shit. That works so good.
That and then Vaseline. You take Vaseline and put all around your eyes, and then the paint won't stick to your eyes and eyelashes. You just wipe the Vaseline right off.
Yes, sir. Since we're talking about tools, well, let's talk. What do you got for a sprayer? What do you recommend for a paint sprayer?
I've got 3 Graco's is what I've got. And I like the Graco's. If you're going to buy something, buy a Graco or a Titan. Those are the 2 top sprayers that I like.
Any tips or tricks with that stuff?
If you got multiple sprayers, I've got one sprayer that is nothing but oil-based products. So we don't run any latex through it. And then my 2 other sprayers will spray nothing but latex paint out of those. And then what?
How come I kind of get the idea, but you just don't want those to interact inside the sprayer? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I just don't, because a lot of the times I'll leave my hoses full.
Okay.
Especially if it's not going to be cold, we'll leave the hoses full of a cleaner. And I don't want to have to worry about mixing the oil in the waters.
Yeah.
And it just saves it. I've seen it before. Some guys will use it for both, and you have some problems. Some of the water won't get all the way out of your line, and then you've got oil mixed with it. And I'm like, we're just gonna nip this in the bud. So
especially if it's a big money maker for you, it's worth it.
Yeah. And I'm a red guy. I'm a Milwaukee guy.
Oh, you took the words. I was just going to ask you, red or yellow. So. Well, guys, this has been a great interview. Have a good night.
Now, I do. I will give you this caveat. The only DeWalt stuff that I own are their miter saws.
Really? How come?
I like a DeWalt miter saw better than a Milwaukee.
Electric or battery?
Electric.
Okay.
I hadn't, and the only reason I don't have a battery operated DeWalt, I just don't want to go with the DeWalt batteries because then you're going to have to buy everything new. And plus, most of the time when I have a miter saw out, it's production work, and you're using the thing all day. I was working the other day putting rough sawn lumber in my new ham shack down there. So we were cutting rough sawn oak. And I'm like, I don't know how long a stinking battery would last cutting through this rough sawn oak.
That would be, yeah. I got the 7 1/4 battery one, and I love it for laminate floor. Oh my
Really?
God. You could, yeah, like on a 6 amp hour battery, I could do, I don't know, the biggest living room I've ever done and still had battery left. Like it,
Really?
oh yeah, the thing's awesome. It's great. But yeah, I get it. Especially if you're doing production work, it's nice to have somewhere to plug it in. But
Oh yeah. If I do go cordless on a miter saw, I'll go ahead and break down and buy a Milwaukee one.
I won't hold it against you.
Oh yeah. now I'm looking. I want a cordless chainsaw, something awful, and I'm stuck. I'm stuck on whether I want to buy a Milwaukee or an Echo.
Now, how come?
I've got an Echo gas saw right now.
Okay.
And a little bit of research I did, the chains are the same for their Echo saw as the gas saw I've got. So the whole 2 is 1, 1 is none thing is what I'm looking at.
And that sucks because, well, you know what you could look into, just an idea. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I know some people will pick a bigger bar or a different size bar for the DeWalt so they can switch over to the proper chain, you know? So it might be something to look at, because I love the idea of having extra batteries for a battery tool, but I get it. You know, it's nice to only have to stock one chain, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. But the thing is, the cordless, the battery operated chainsaw is not going to get used that much. So, I mean, we cut stuff here a lot, and I'll probably, on a big thing, I'll just grab the gas saw and be done with it. But it'd be nice to have in the trailer.
Oh yeah. I've had a few people who say once they picked up a battery one, it's the one they grab for all the little shit now, you know?
Yeah.
Anytime you got just a little job, you know, and I've even used them for doing things like cutting off 4x4s at ground level or just a little below, just as long as you put an old chain on it, you know?
Oh yeah. I usually I've cut so many trees with my stinking cordless sawzall. It's unreal.
Yes. Yeah. I like them too. I got a guy from the TSP community sent me a bunch of Diablo stuff a couple years ago, and I've got some of their pruning saw blades, and they're not bad. Yeah, they work good.
Those pruning saw blades will cut a deck into pieces in no time.
I got to try that sometime.
Oh, it'll flat go through pressure treated decking, like old pressure treated decking. I mean, it'll go through as fast as a chainsaw will.
Really?
Yes.
I got to try that. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Oh yeah. It'll cut through a deer too, but it's kind of messy.
Yeah. That's what I used the last couple times to do my deer, was not a pruning blade, but I used a recip saw. The thing, man, I don't know. Crackheads everywhere rejoiced when they invented a battery powered recip saw, you know, and a grinder too, right? But,
oh yeah. Now I actually bought Home Depot they had 5 amp hour 2-packs and a charger for $199, the Milwaukees, and you got a free tool with it. I ended up getting a cordless angle grinder and used it the other day, and I was like, I'm sold. I love this thing.
Well, I'm trying to think. So a couple years ago, when Becky took over the daycare, when they started with the old church, they put the daycare in the basement. My brother-in-law and I had to haul out the cast iron fence. So, you know, that old like wrought iron, probably half-inch diameter, a little better. So we had to go along and make, I think, 3 cuts every 4 feet. And I did all of that on a 6 amp hour battery with my DeWalt saw. Like that thing, I'm telling you, must have made, I don't know, 40 or 50 cuts on a battery, and I was still good. And
I've got,
go ahead.
Diablo makes a angle grinder blade, especially for cast iron. And
try that too.
I take out cast iron tubs a bunch, and we used to just take a sledgehammer and bust it.
Oh.
And then it's like a frag grenade going off. I mean, you get those shards of enamel and everything going everywhere. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So I found that blade. It sounds like you're tearing the house apart, but it will cut through cast iron like nobody's business.
Really? So you can just cut it up into well, you got to be pretty friggin' small to be a manageable section of it. I don't know how the old timers ever even carried them damn things in there.
There's probably, they worked a hell of a lot harder than we do.
That is true. But yeah,
Oh yeah,
this house right here, both the tubs were cast iron, and I beat my shoulders to pieces with a sledgehammer. And
yeah.
if you go in the bathroom next door to me, we just use it for storage. If you go down in the cracks in the floor, you can still find shards of the porcelain cover.
And that stuff will cut you like a knife too.
Yep, because you know how it is. I don't wear gloves almost ever, and I'm stupid. And yeah, I definitely cut myself multiple times with that. So,
Oh yeah. I saw one step closer. Yeah.
yeah,
I would not use the pruning blades unless you were in a bind. They make stainless steel butchering blades for a sawzall, and they're stainless steel and they work great. The regular yellow DeWalt blades, they'll leave the paint off the blade on the bone.
right. Yes. Yep, I can believe that. Chris Dixon says he wants me. He wanted you to know that Vaseline is an awesome trick. And of course, he just gets me to say things like that out loud so they can record them and use them as clips later on. So since you're a Milwaukee guy, what are your favorite go-to Milwaukee tools you have?
I've got almost everything as far as their cordless stuff. I don't have any 12 volt. I've just stuck with 18 volt because I'm like, if a 12 volt will do it, I know an 18 volt will too.
Absolutely.
So I stay with that. The stuff I use, I tell you, the tool that I probably could not live without is the oscillating saw.
Everybody says that.
I don't know what guys did before they invented that.
So I kept going to Home Depot and I kept buying, another cordless DeWalt tool. So one day I was finally in there and I'm like, I've really got everything I want. And Becky's like, well, yeah, but you wanted something to review. So I picked up the oscillating tool. Well, it's the tool you don't know you need till you have it. And then all of a sudden you find 10,000 uses for it.
Yeah. And you're like, what did I do without this thing before?
What are your favorite uses for it?
I use it a lot of times if you're putting in cabinets and stuff to flush cut. You can flush cut the baseboard, and then you don't have to pull the whole section of baseboard out. You can cut exactly where the cabinet fits, cut that 4-foot piece of baseboard out, pull it off, slide the cabinet in, and you're golden. And it saves you so much time.
Chris Dixon said we used to cuss a lot. He just picked up a cordless oscillating tool as well. Do you know my favorite use for that is installing doors and windows? Two things: cutting off the shims,
yes,
and then cutting off the excess foam afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I used to it was just a chore before, and now it's just zoop and you're done.
Oh yeah. My dad, I've seen my dad put in so many doors and stuff and cutting the shims. He's got a Japanese pull saw.
Oh yeah.
And that man could flat cut. He could cut shims with that Japanese pull saw faster than I can do it with the oscillating saw.
Yes, sir.
And that thing was sharp. It would cut you. It was razor sharp.
I'll tell you one thing that I realized. So one step said putting it on the Christmas list. For me, don't push on the thing. Took me a while to learn that. Let it do its own thing. Just kind of hold it there, because the harder you push, the less it works. It's the weirdest thing, eh?
Oh yeah. Well, they say an old plumber told me one time on a hammer drill.
Yeah.
Not to push on the hammer drill. Just let the weight of the drill do it.
That makes sense too.
And he said the more you push down on it, it's got less movement to hammer. And I tried it, and by God, he was right.
It's crazy how that is, hey? The old timers, they know.
Yeah. This dude didn't have but about 3 teeth in his mouth, but he taught me that. So.
Well, some of them masons you used to hire, you probably could have learned something from them too, just not what to have for breakfast.
Exactly. They most of the time they were too drunk to know what was going on, I don't think. So.
I wanted to show my son one day, those oscillating tools, you can kind of put them on your skin and they won't cut you, right?
Yeah.
But they will burn you if they were hot when you touched them.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, stupid. But
yeah, but I've got about all the Milwaukee stuff, most everything they make. I hadn't bought a sander yet. I just don't know how good the sanders would be.
I don't know either. I just bought my first cordless sander. I bought a Bauer just because I wanted some of the Harbor Freight stuff to bring back. but I
Yeah.
got the adapter to run my DeWalt batteries on it. So it'll be interesting. I don't do a ton of sanding anyway, but I'm going to give it a shot and see what I think.
Well, I did buy the Milwaukee router, their cordless router, and I bought it just to mill out 80% lowers.
Yes, sir. How's that going for you?
It works good on milling out. Milling out the lowers, you got to take just a little bitty bite at a time, but it's nice because you don't have to mess with a stinking cord.
And are they aluminum?
Yes, they're aluminum. There's
Okay.
two different types of aluminum that they're made out of, and I get lost in the weeds on the different types, but that thing works awesome for milling out lowers.
Yes, sir. What kind of, do you have a certain bit that you recommend?
No, the bit that I've got came with the jig.
Okay.
So, and then we burnt one bit up. It finally burned up. So we went to, it's an industrial supply place. And I told him what I needed. And he was like, okay. And it was, I don't know, some foreign brand bit, some German bit or something like that I'd never heard of. But he was like, this is it. This will work for you. So I was like, okay, he knows what he's talking about.
That's cool. Yeah. That'd be something I'd love to be able to do up here, if you know what I mean. But
oh yeah,
it is what it is. So how'd you come across the workshop community? What were the connections to bring you through here?
Well, we met at the last SRF, and I'd seen you on Jack's on what is it, the expert council stuff.
Yeah.
And then I started looking around on that, and then I saw you, and I started watching some stuff. And then when I was like, he's going to be at SRF, and then I saw you, and I was like, hey, we need to talk. I was like, I want to talk to you. And then you're like, okay. And then it was like every stinking time I was free, you were talking to somebody else. And I'm like, we got to figure out some time to talk. So that's how we ended up meeting, was at SRF. And I was like, I want to talk to this guy some more. And then I hounded you enough that you're like, yeah, we'll get you on so you'll leave me the hell alone.
No, man, I love it. No, it's good. That's the worst. Sorry. That's the best and the worst about events is when I go to something like that, I want to make myself 100% available to everybody. As long as anybody wants to talk, I'll talk, as long as it's a productive conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And out of all the events I went to last year, I think I only had to walk away from one unproductive conversation. So that tells you most people are there to chat and carry on, which is good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a super time. I mean, people were coming up and talking to me, and I was like, how in the hell do you know who I am? I was like, I hadn't even done anything. But they're like, we heard that you're building a community for the state. And they're like, we live in Indiana or wherever. How can we do this thing? So cool? I ended up talking to several people and showing them how to do it and walking them through the steps that we did. So hopefully they took it back and are doing something.
So have you listened to Jack for a long time? Is that where it all kind of started for you? Or
I listened to him on and off, but then I got a little bit more into listening to Jack. And then that's when it started broadening out to other people in that his experts and stuff like that. You would come up and I'm like, well, I need to go listen to him. And then like Nick Ferguson, he's one of the experts. So I'm like, okay, let's go listen to some of his stuff.
It's cool. I've said many, many, many times that the Jack Spirko family tree of content creators is one big asshole. I want to call it a Christmas tree, but that's a big tree, man. It's all I can say.
Oh yeah. And then the cool stuff like Chuck Peoples, Chuck's in here. I met Chuck at SRF.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, it works both ways, but Chris Dixon, he is a fellow Albertan. You'll see him in here a lot. And we've met in person, and he met, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I think he first found me through the Survival Podcast as well. And now we're friends and, live within 3-4 hours or 5 hours of each other. So it's cool how that all goes, man.
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy. Chuck and I did a live Friday night. Chuck is planning on coming over to my place one weekend. We're just gonna hang out. So who knows what'll happen then?
Chuck's good shit. I like him a lot. I got to finally chat with him in person at SRF as well. And just want to shout out to Starshine from Louisiana, the home of Anyway, that's New Orleans is where. So I'm from Nova Scotia, up on the East Coast in Canada. And that's where a lot of the Cajun culture came from, was from the Acadians in Nova Scotia when they got kicked out by the British. So times are funny how that is. But
Oh yeah.
so from there, yeah, like so you're a Milwaukee guy, you run a contracting group, yeah. And so how long have you been into prepping?
I started for 12, 13 years ago, something
Okay.
like that. Just kind of mildly doing it, Oh, we'll put back a little bit of food. We'll do this. It pretty much started like everybody, beans, bullets, and band-aids is kind of how everybody starts. And it's like John from SOE has said, it's ever prepping leads into homesteading. So
Yes.
that's where my journey's at, and the more sustainability part of it, raising as much food as you can, stuff like that. I mean, beans, bullets, and band-aids are cool, but what are you going to do on day 366? And it's like one guy said, he's like, if you've got a year's supply of food, as soon as you crack open that first can of Mountain House that you've got, the time starts ticking on your life.
Yep.
You've got X amount of days to live, but if you're growing and producing a lot of your own food, you can live indefinitely then.
You said, what'd you say, about 10, 12 or 12, 13 years ago you started?
Yeah.
Do you remember what brought it about? I always love to hear what brings each person on their own journey of preparedness,
Well, part of it, I got divorced. So
Okay.
I was kind of on my own then. I had one kid, and I was like, well, I've got to provide and stuff like that. So I started reading a little bit of prepper fiction in spare time. And I'm like, this all makes sense. So, I mean, it was just kind of it all clicked. And when I got super hardcore into it, I was reading one of the books, and the author was going through, and the kids came in, they're like, Dad, I'm hungry. And he's talking to himself. He is like, I've got nothing to feed my kids. And that light bulb came off. It's like, I never want to be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure my kids are always fed and taken care of. So after that, it was like, boom, it's full bore, 100%. Being prepared for whatever comes along, whether it be a turn in the market where you don't have very many jobs, or a freaking EMP happening to, zombies coming and killing people, whatever it comes along, you're prepared for a little bit, as much as you can. So it just really kicked it up to me. And I was like, I don't ever want to sit in that boat and be that guy that's, I can't feed my kids.
I couldn't imagine how that would feel. I could not. I mean, yeah, we were pretty poor at some times, but the kids always had food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could not imagine.
Oh, I mean, it was gut wrenching. I kind of sat there on the couch and was like, man, that's a for real deal. And it really hit home. And it's the preparedness aspect with me. A lot of people take it as a hobby. It's like, oh, I've got, this and this, and I bought an extra case of water. I'm prepared, and I've got, a case of MREs. That's cool. You got about a week to live. So it's come a way of life with me. So it's what I do every day. I don't have to think about, hey, what am I doing to be prepared today? When you wake up, in the morning, it's a ritual and a way of life with me. So,
do you remember what book it was you started reading?
What was the first book? One of the first books was the Going Home, from Angry American. That was one of the first books. And then 1 second after, of course, I think everybody's read that.
Oh, yes, that's so good.
And then I got into Wesley Rawls, his Patriot stuff.
Yep.
I've read it. There's been a bunch. I got a Kindle. My wife bought me a Kindle.
Nice.
And after that, I was like, it's on. I just started downloading books, and I would read every night till I fell asleep about it.
I want to bring. You ever read One Step Closer? Said Alas Babylon. That's one of my favorites. If you've never read it, it's a classic from I want to say the 50s. I think 50s or 60s. I've
read part of it, and I stopped reading it, and it's been years since I started on it.
It's a good one. I enjoyed it. And I wanted to bring this one up. Goofy Roofy said, I get into prepping the other way around. Permaculture first, then prepping. It's funny how all of the homesteading, permaculture, prepping, survival, whatever it is, they all kind of come together for self-reliance, eh?
Exactly. And I mean, it's no matter how you get into it, it's great for everybody to be into it. I mean, I think it's awesome. The more, if people were more self-reliant, the countries would just be so much better off. You wouldn't have to rely on the stinking government for stuff. I mean, that's one of the big things. I want to be able to, I mean, I don't take anything from the government right now. I don't want to. I want to be as reliant as I can. And then that way nobody's got a foot on your shoulder telling you what to do.
So when you bring that up, you're an entrepreneur yourself, a business owner. How important do you think having some sort of independence in income or being self-employed is to being a prepper or to being into preparedness?
I think it's big. It gives you, I get a lot more free time than somebody that's tied down 9 to 5. So part of my stuff, if you're bidding work, it's on, I can get this done in 8 hours. I make more money if I can get it done in 6.
Right.
Find a faster way to do it. And you don't have to punch a clock. So, I mean, there's a lot of days, sometimes if I really want to, I can hump it and be done by 2:00 in the afternoon. And then it's like, shoot, I've got, right now you got till 5:00 till it gets dark. I'm like, I got 3 hours to work at the house, on my time and my stuff.
I think that's the best part.
Yeah. And you're only limited by the amount of work that you want to do on how much money you can make. That's the big thing. You're not beholden to your boss, giving you a raise. If you want to make more money, just go out and bust your butt that much harder and pick up more jobs.
That's right.
So there's never been a time, I mean, and you're not confined to a budget of, hey, I only bring in, my salary, I make $1,000 a week, and that's what I've got to budget. Your budget is as big as you want it to be.
Yes, it is. I love it. And like you said, if you want to make more money, bid more jobs or bid the jobs higher. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Yeah, you're in control of it. And over the last 3 years, we went through some craziness. Let's put it that way. How much were you affected by all the bullshit we went through being your own boss?
I didn't play the whole bullshit game. I played it for about a week and that was before it really got big in the news. I was watching it on some websites and some forums, and the guys were talking. This is before it had come out,
Yep.
Hey, what's going on? It's when we still saw some videos of people over in the East just falling over dead kind of thing. So I was actually working for a lady. We were getting ready to do a custom closet for her. And I called her and talked to her. I said, I'm going to come over, take all the measurements for your closet. I said, you've already picked the paint colors out, all that stuff. I went to Lowe's that day, got all the materials I needed, and then built all her cabinets, all her custom cabinet and everything in my shop. Did it for a week. Kind of called her and I was like, I think this stuff is not as bad as they say it is. And she was like, that's fine. I want my closet installed.
That's right.
So I went up there and did it. We slowed down maybe a smidge, but we didn't get hurt too bad. People still wanted stuff done, and people were staying home, and they're like, ooh, I want to spruce my house up. They're working from home, and they're looking in their extra bedroom that's an office, and they're like, damn, I need this place painted. So that or we want a new deck. We're spending all kinds of time at home. We want a new deck. Okay, cool. We'll come do a deck for you.
Or an office or whatever it was, I did more dump runs because everybody was cleaning up their house.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But as far as having to make choices about where you went and where you didn't go, I bet you were a lot more free being your own boss, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we just didn't put up with it. I didn't put a diaper on or anything like that. I'm like, I got into it with some guys at Lowe's. They're like, you've got to do this. And I'm like, if you want my business, I don't have to.
Right.
And so you vote. I mean, you kind of, your wallet is king on that. If they want your money, they'll let you in. And there were a few places that were sticklers on it. And I'm like, that's cool. I won't ever come back here.
Yep, I remembered them too.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to say it, there's a little bitty market right down, like 2 miles down from me. I've been going to this little market to eat breakfast and lunch I'm 44 now. I've been going there since I was 15.
Yes, sir.
I walked in there one day and they're like, where's your diaper? And I'm like, I'm not wearing one. I've got a medical exemption. And he goes, show me your papers. And I said, did I wake up in Kentucky or Nazi Germany? I said, which one is it? And he goes, we're not going to serve you unless you have those.
Oh,
I said, that's cool. I walked out and I told my wife about it. And she's like, well, she said, maybe it'll ease up. I went in like a month later. They pulled the same crap. And I said, I will never step foot in this place. And again, and I told the owner, I said, I've been coming here since I was 15 years old, every morning for breakfast and at least 2 or 3 times for lunch. And I said, you have lost my business forever. And I have never been back in there.
We don't forget, you know?
Yeah.
So you also mentioned ham radio, hey?
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
Ham radio, I got into ham radio. If it wasn't being prepared, I would not own ham radios.
Okay.
I knew nothing about it. And then you get into preparedness and it's like, everybody is like, oh, you know, the silver bullet's ham radio, which yes, ham radio is a silver bullet if you use it right. But if it wasn't for preparedness, I wouldn't own any radios whatsoever. So I got into it just for that aspect.
Have you done much with it?
Yeah, I'm sitting here now. I've got 7 ham radios sitting on the desk right now. So it's kind of one of those things. If I died and my wife sold my ham radios for what I told her I'd pay for it, you're in trouble.
Oh yes, I know. Yeah, she'll bring you back from the dead and kill you again.
Oh yeah, and it's just like it with guns too. If you're like, yeah, if my wife sold my guns for what I told her I paid for them, I'm in trouble.
Oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, that for me, ham. I've got my basic privileges up here, which is just kind of like 2 meter and that kind of stuff. And I own advanced radio gear, you know, for HF communications and stuff. But I've never gone back and got my certification. So someday I will. I keep saying someday. Nate's in here. He'll bust my balls over it for sure. But
oh yeah, he said spot on for the radio description.
So how did you? So what have you learned? Like, I mean, ham radio is one of those things. You can take it as far as you want, or you can go as simple as you want. So what was your reasoning for wanting it, and what are your plans for it? You know what I mean? You know, without giving away, you know.
With the ham radio, it's a total grid down communication. I mean, if you go with no repeaters and, you know, cut your repeaters out, there's nothing dependent on the grid, you know, and any infrastructure you can have. I can essentially talk to you even in Canada with no infrastructure in between. You and I can get on HF and communicate. That's the nice thing about it. And there's so many different frequencies that, you know, the powers that shouldn't be, like Billy says, they can't block every frequency that's out there. They can't jam all of them. So it's a reliable communication method if you practice. And probably one of the biggest gripes I've got with the preparedness community is they're like, oh, I've got all my ham radios. I'll figure out how to use it when the grid goes down. It's like, yeah, cool. You wouldn't go buy a $1,200 AR and figure out how to use it when a guy's busting your door down.
Ain't that the truth? Oh, I better get out the manual and see how this thing works, you know?
Yeah, let me unbox all my ammo and load my magazines and put my night vision on and all that and figure out how to use it. So, but with our group, we're working on, you know, an SOP, a standard operating procedure for our communications all across the state. So we're working on that to where we can talk to each other in a grid down situation and be able to communicate all across the state. That's one of my big goals that we're working on right now.
So you're legitimately working on something that I think gets lost a lot in prepping is the community aspect of it. Hey?
Yeah.
How important do you think that is, Jason?
That I think a lot of the guys want to do the lone wolf stuff, which is cool to read about in books. The lone wolf is great. The lone wolf is going to twist his ankle way out in the middle of nowhere and die. So
Right.
you've got to have that community. Even if you're married and you've got 7 kids, you and your wife and 7 kids, you still can't provide everything you need for yourself. It takes a big community to make everything go around.
I mean, even the big old families, the ones from turn of the century or even further back, like the ones that went out and settled the prairies and that kind of thing, even they had to have access to supply lines or, country stores, something where they could get, as much as we'd love to believe they were 100% self-sufficient, there was still things they needed. They
Yeah.
couldn't fashion firearms. They probably weren't harvesting salt. They might, all of that stuff, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So, hey, Top, I see Top's Tactical and other cool stuff. He's in here. Top is a good guy. He's in our group with us.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's his name? Suddenly everyone speaks English. The interpreter. Oh, okay. Oh, geez. I see. Yeah, yeah. Read that out loud. That's cool. I love it, man. There's been people in here I haven't seen before. This is great, man. And he said 24-hour security alone will wipe out the lone wolf.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. And Goofy said, can only take so much on those wagons west. It's true. You can take as much as you want, but eventually the supplies are going to run out and you need to either figure out a way to resupply or figure out a way to supply it yourself.
Yeah. And I threw a quick video together about, building your community and stuff like that. We've got members in our community that raise, one of them commercially raises pigs. So I actually bought some pigs from them and we're going to finish feeding them out and butcher them. They're in our community. The money that I gave him is going to stay with him and he'll spend it in his community as opposed to going to freaking Walmart and giving money to them. Those 2 guys that raise the pigs, they give a shit about me more than Walmart does. So, and they care what's going to go on in Kentucky. And to go and then like Shelly with 2 Old Crow Homestead, she makes soap. And she makes some damn good soap. I've got it. I use it almost every day. Her soap it's sitting in the shower. And I told the guys, I'm like, find your community, do business with your community members. And of course, I preface it as we can't buy everything from our community. None of the people in our community have an oil refinery where we can buy gas from them. So, and I told them, I said, if somebody does, I want you in the group because I want to buy gas from you.
Truth. Love that. That's cool because we talk about community is something people don't always talk about in prepping. I think it's coming around, but I love your idea of not just creating things you can trade, but creating an economy within your community as well.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard it put that way.
And we actually, one of our guys that's in IT that's in the group, I tasked him, I called him this morning. I was on the way to Lowe's and I'm like, I got to talk to him. So I told him, I was like, hey, let's come up with some kind of spreadsheet, some kind of deal to where each member can go in there and put what they've got to sell, any services they offer, and we can pull it up. Each member in the group can pull it up and say, well, hey, Joe Blow does IT work. So maybe if I need some IT work done, I've got some chickens. I can trade him for some IT work or whatever it is. One guy might, like with me, somebody might need a deck built and they raise pigs. Yeah. So I can tell them, hey, we'll build this deck and I need 2 pigs.
I love it.
Yeah. There's no, the man doesn't get his cut of it and we both get what we want.
Yes, keep the sticky-fingered bandits out of your pockets, right?
Yeah. So we're building that spreadsheet, and then each member will be able to go in and put what services they have and what products they have. And then if I'm needing soap, and I don't know that Shelly makes soap, I could look on there and be like, "Hey, Shelly makes soap. I want to go get some soap from Shelly."
I love it. That's really cool. And Shanna Miller watching from Marshall County. Do you know Shanna?
I don't know Shanna.
No,
Shanna, get in touch with me and we can talk.
And Sandeep, parallel economy is the way to go. Do you know Sandeep either?
No.
No, this is, guys, I just got a shout out to all of you. We've had some new faces, new names in here that I don't recognize. So make sure you introduce yourself and let us know who you are, where you're coming from. And yeah, the easiest way to keep up is the Telegram group. There is, I might be able to even throw, if I can get a link up here. Let's see. Yeah. So how long have you been building this community?
We started, it's around 2 years ago is when we started all this. So, and it's just grown as more people find out about it, more people want to join it. And what I'm hoping for is that somebody in Kentucky, Indiana, or somebody in Tennessee, Indiana, and around the surrounding states will see what we're doing and pick it up and go with it. So, absolutely. And I mean, and if there's people in other states, I mean, let's contact me. I can show you and give you kind of the groundwork of how we've done it.
Chuck said, in a way, we're all doing it now by supporting everyone in the big community we're creating through Self-Reliance. Jack, Nicole, Tim, Billy, all of it talking and mentioning all the people with the businesses. This is true. I say it all the time. A rising tide floats all boats. And in content creation, I think if you're in competition with one another, you're doing it wrong. I think we should all be working, because how many new faces have I seen in the chat tonight because you came on? I mean, how great is that? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And I don't want to run anybody down. I mean, and I think we ought to all work together just like that. I mean, the only people that I've got a gripe about in content creators are the guy that comes on every time and, oh shit, the world's ending. You know, the nukes are inbound, and we probably know the couple people that I'm talking about. So
there's one from my neck of the woods that, everybody, it's such a sin. But anyway, you know what? They can do what they want. But I can promise you right now that if you come, whenever you come and hear me talk, you're not going to hear fear mongering. Yeah. You know, we might openly discuss an issue that could be an issue, but that'll be it. There'll be, if it's not solutions, I want somebody to kick me in the nuts because I'm doing it wrong.
Oh yeah. And I did a video. I've done 2 videos, one about groceries and one about the diesel, but I plainly stated, I am not fear mongering you. I am not telling you we're running out of diesel. I flat told you what I found out personally. And if you tell the guy the facts, you know, I'm not fear mongering it. The facts are the facts. I'm not embellishing it or anything like that. One of the best ones that I saw, there was one guy, he was like, get in your bunkers now, it's inbound. And so I hit the clickbait. The dude's standing on the beach in a freaking Hawaiian shirt, giving this thing, telling you to get in the bunker. So I threw a comment in there. I was like, dude, your bunker must be on the freaking beach. I said, what are you doing? And of course, it never got any comments or anything.
No. I think boy, I hate to go down. Anyway, the homestead content creators, I think, you know, the Instagram style ones, I think there's a lot of those that are disingenuous, perhaps. You know, they show one thing, but maybe they don't necessarily live it on the other end. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I try to share my failures and my fuck ups as much as I do everything else, because I don't ever want anybody to think, whoa, boy, he's got his shit together.
Oh yeah. Well, I did a video this year. I was like, I was watching some videos. People were growing potatoes in grow bags, and they were showing these massive potatoes that they were pulling out of these grow bags. And I'm like, oh shit, that's the way to go. I don't have to go hill potatoes with the tractor, do all this crap. So I bought a bunch of grow bags, and I mean, I had potato coming out the top. I mean, they were just growing out the top of the grow bags, this and that, the leaves and everything. I told my wife, I said, we're going to be just drowning in potatoes. I go to pop one of those grow bags, and I'd planted in that one grow bag. I'd planted more potatoes than I got.
Oh, I did
a video of it, and I'm like, this sucks flat out. I screwed up and didn't know what I was doing.
Yes. I don't know if you remember, but quite a few years ago, it was all the rage on social media. You would plant your potatoes, and then you kept going up levels. They were like in a 2x2 or 4x4 cube. And you were
putting the slats on.
Yeah, well, I failed as miserably as I possibly could at that. So I don't know. What do you think, right?
Oh yeah, you got to grow potatoes in the ground from now on.
Yep, and just hope you don't get too much rain. Aaron Aaron and Nate from Two Chicks Homestead, she just wanted all about sharing reality and failures over here. Make sure you give them a like and a subscribe too, because they're good shit. And same with Chris Dixon here. He said, I did the spare tire. Oh, yes. Spare tire tower, absolute bust.
Oh, yeah.
We should, we'll do a roundtable discussion some night on everybody's homesteading failures, because they're, if you don't learn from your failures, you're doing something wrong.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, one of my other failures, I was watching Billy with permapastures, and he's doing his chicken tractor on steroids.
Yep.
So I was like, I want to do that. I want compost. So we nicknamed ours the chicken tractor on meth is what we named ours. So I was doing it, and I'm like, man, I can cut down on my feed bill. So I was starting to cut their feed back because they're supposed to be getting protein from the compost. I killed a few chickens doing that.
Sure.
And I admit it. I mean, I underfed some of the chickens, and some of them died. And I finally figured it out. And I'm like, man, I feel like a jackass for those chickens dying just because I didn't know what I was doing.
I guess that's life, isn't it? Unfortunately, but whatever. I love it. If you can sit down and say, okay, this is what I did. About 3 summers ago, we decided to build wicking beds for the first time. And I cut some corners. First off, I decided to line them with old, do you ever see grain bags that they have out in the fields? I don't know if you ever have them. Yeah. So I got some of those from a local supplier. Let's put it this way. They were used. So I got them for free. And that didn't work. I should have went with pond liner. It still wasn't thick enough. It leaked. We wanted raised beds. So instead of building a false bottom and lifting them up, I decided to try to build them like a bin suspended in the air.
Yeah.
So I back the truck in, I get the gravel in, I put the layer in, then I put the topsoil in. I got about 4 shovelfuls of topsoil left to go into the thing. Boom, straight on the ground. Just as if I'd have made a perfect pile, except at that point the gravel and soil were mixed together. So we all do it, man. Oh
yeah. And that's the part. You see too many people just show you all their successes on YouTube, but they don't show you when they've screwed the pooch on a bunch of stuff. And no. I'm like, I want it to be as real as I can. You know I'd screw up on stuff. So why not show it to somebody and maybe they can learn from my mistakes?
Did you ever have a really bad day in business, or a day where you just thought you might quit, or shit was going sideways, or whatever it happened to be?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of those. So we had probably one of the worst ones. We were working on a hotel when we were still pouring concrete. Okay. And had the front parking, their front drive-through, their covered drive-through. We poured half of that and had it stamped, and a freaking rainstorm came out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh great. So we're pulling plastic on top of it, got it covered. It looked acceptable for a commercial pour. I mean, it was fine. If it had been somebody's house, it wouldn't have been acceptable. Contractor didn't say a word about it. Nothing. We poured the other section. It turned out perfect. Went to give them a bill, and they're like, that one section that got rained on sucks. You need to tear it out. Huh. And this was like 2 weeks later after it was already rock hard. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me the next day when we could have torn it out and it wasn't as hard as it needed to be? Oh, well, we kind of forgot. I was like, you forgot, so I gave you the bill is what it was. So we tore out about 10 yards of stamped concrete and had to re-pour all of it. I'm like, I was like, I'm ready to pull my hair out and just say the hell with this. Yeah, there's been those days.
I love hearing that. I know it's all like, yeah, everybody has them in business. And if a feller doesn't, if somebody says they've never had that day, then either you're not successful or you're one of the only ones, because everybody has a day like that.
That or you're lying about it.
Mm-hmm. Or in denial,
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody's going to have bad days. It's how you deal in the end with it. So whether you smile and go on about it, or, get disgruntled for the rest of the week, and it just ruins your week.
I'll be honest, I don't always deal with it ideally for a few minutes. I'll usually lose my shit internally, either stressed out, anxious. You don't want to be around me for 10 or 15 minutes. But then, I have learned, and you can ask Becky about this, I just don't make a decision in those 10 or 15 minutes. As long as I give myself that breathing room and I know where I need to be, I'm okay. But if I ever make a decision in those 15 minutes, it's going to be the wrong one. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah. And I will tell everybody, if you ever do any kind of painting for anybody, you never pick the color.
Right.
If a customer says you just pick the color, you're like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Because if you pick the color and they don't like it, you're screwed and you got to repaint it on your dollar. But if they pick the color and they don't like it, then it's like you pick the color. It's another whatever $500 to repaint this deal.
That is good advice, and it is sage advice. It's even good marriage advice because,
yeah, honey, it's your fault.
Yep. You're like, the wife would be like, "Don't worry, honey. I'm just going to say it." A couple of weeks ago, she said, "Hon, can you go down to the hardware store and pick out a color for me?" She goes, like this. I go, "Nope. I'm too smart for that, darling."
Oh, yeah. All right. Chet, Top, we'll see you later.
Thanks care, Tom. It's good to have you. And let's see. Tim Gallowick said, everything's a learning curve if you're strong enough to admit your failures, time and money. Yes. Just chalk it up as education, right?
Oh, yeah. And hopefully it's not too inexpensive in education.
Right. But if it is, hopefully, I don't know. I just make it right, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had one lady, one real good customer. I painted her bathroom 3 times until she finally got the right color she wanted. I was like, your bathroom's like a foot smaller now with all the wall paint on here.
Where I grew up, I used to take a ferry back and forth from my town to where I went to university. And we used to joke that they would put the ferry into dry dock every year or every 2 years. And they just put another coat of rust coat on it because that salt water would kill it, right? Yeah. And we used to joke that the whole thing was just held together by layers of paint. There was no metal left to it.
It probably was.
Oh, guaranteed.
We did.
Go ahead.
We did a church baptistry, waterproofed it, a concrete church baptistry, and that church was probably 70 years old. We chipped probably an inch of paint off that thing. I mean, we went in with like Bosch chipping hammers to take the paint off. Yes, and I was like, never again am I going to do an old church baptistry like this. It took forever.
So what did you reseal once you got the old paint off? What did you use to redo it with?
Sanitred. And you might look them up. It's Sanitred. I think it's sanitred.com. They've got waterproofing stuff that is that's the only waterproofing stuff I'll use for basements and stuff like that. It is freaking amazing.
Man, that's cool. Sanitred? It says tread. Does it have like grit in it, or is that just part of the name? You
can put grit in it if you want to.
Okay.
Most of the time when we're waterproofing stuff, it's like on walls, so you want it smooth.
Yep.
But they've got several different products, and I've used it. We did that church baptistry probably 15 years ago, and it's a Church of Christ. So the Church of Christ keeps their baptistry full all the time. They keep it full and heated all the time.
Okay.
And never had a call back one on it in all that amount of time.
Pastor must like it as a hot tub then.
Yeah.
Full and heated all the time. That's funny. Nate said, how about my dumbass snapping off the wire of my end-fed HF antenna? Spent 3 hours on a Saturday morning fixing it, putting it back up the right way. Too much wind and no give on the 130-foot wire.
Oh, yeah.
So I've
been there. I broke an antenna a couple weeks back screwing around with it. The chameleon, I love chameleon antennas for HF stuff.
What are they? I don't know what that is.
It's just a brand. They make a lot of more tactical antennas. Quick deploy stuff, just wire antennas, like some in-fed stuff. And I've got an in-fed wire antenna for I've got it in an NVIS setup. Okay. It's only about 12 feet off the ground. Is as high as it is. And I can hit about a 500-mile radius around my house on HF. Yeah, on HF.
What is your what's your like topological kind of build? Are you up high where you are, or you have?
No, it's all pretty well flat. But with your NVIS setup, you set it lower to the ground. So what it does, the takeoff angle is it's near vertical. Your takeoff angle. Okay. So like with your HF, you're skipping it off the ionosphere, and it's going at a shallow angle and going long distances. With the NVIS, it's shooting almost straight up and then coming almost straight back down.
So you're not going to go as far, but you're going to get out further. You know, if that makes, I don't know if I'm.
It's more for regional comms as opposed to like global comms. Like I probably wouldn't be able to hit about 500 miles is the max that you're going to get on it. But if you move it up in the air, you're going to get more distance out of it. And like I said, I'm not worried about talking to somebody in England or Europe or something like that. I want to talk all the states that surround me is what I want to talk to.
Well, because that's where you actually need comms in almost any situation. You know, information, you can get a shortwave radio and listen to the BBC out of wherever, right? If you want to. But as far as interacting with somebody, like you said, that 300 to 500 mile range is probably more than you're ever going to need. Yeah.
And it'll give you time. If you know what's going on 300 to 500 miles around you, you can prepare. I mean, if the zombie horde, I'm about an hour or so north of Nashville. If I can figure out the zombie horde coming up I-65 headed my way, I've got time to react to that.
So could you use that kind of antenna as a how would you like a traveling comms type thing? Like, so if you had guys in your mutual assistance group or mutual aid group that were kind of in that 100, 200 mile radius, could you use that as a fairly reliable form of communication between you?
Yeah, it seems to be fairly reliable, and that's an antenna. I can take a man-pack HF radio. I've got a U.S.A. that I can pack around in a backpack and run off like a lithium battery. I can take that antenna, run out, 5 miles from the house and set that thing up in a tree in 15 minutes, do my broadcasting, and then scoot back to the house and nobody'd know where you were.
Nice. Okay.
So, and I've set it up to where you can just essentially, you've got a go bag for your radio go bag. And there's a Brush Beater he's a guy on the internet. He's a comms guy on the internet. He's got a bunch of tactical ham radio stuff and tactical comms that he talks about.
Brush Beater? I'm going to put that in the notes so if anybody's looking.
And he's got a forum and everything else that they talk about a bunch of stuff. So, but and I mean, with that man-pack radio, you can run out away from your location, do all your transmitting, and then scoot back home, and they can't find the .gov can't find where you live at.
What's the battery life for something like that?
I've got a 6 amp hour and a 12 amp hour lithium batteries. Okay. And you can, with that radio, you can I think you can do 5, 10. Well, you can change it from anywhere from 5 watts to 100 watts on what your transmit power. If you do all the formula, it's like 23 amps is what it's pulling at 100 watts.
Okay. Somewhere
right around there, and that's what U.S.A. says. But it actually, if you put it on a meter, it's pulling less. So when you're doing that, it's Shelly wants some comms. Shelly and I could probably talk. We're not super far away, but we could get a setup to where her and I could talk fairly easily.
I'm kind of excited about this because I've mentioned this many times, but we're looking for land down in the Tennessee area, and we won't actually where we're going to end up buying. We won't be that far from you. I mean, it's only a vacation property, but it'll be there, and we won't be that far. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, and we could get comms set up, and the big thing is practicing and messing with it and doing that stuff. We're, like I said, with the comms for our group, we're going to have a standard operating procedure for it, and we're going to do a weekly net to where to where we practice it, and then that way, once you get it practiced, you're down. And it's not fumbling around saying, man, I really wished I could talk to Top. And I wished I knew where Top was at and what frequency he was on. It's like if you need to talk to Top, you know what frequency to get on.
And Chuck says comms as well between you guys.
Yeah. Chuck,
Yeah.
you need to get your general license.
Well, Mr. Jason, we've been an hour and 10 minutes, buddy. That's been a good night.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we've covered all the bases.
Oh yeah, we'll have you back on. First off, I got to say thank you for coming on, because I don't know if my voice would have went another hour tonight. Three out of 4 nights. I probably would have, but it sounded like a 12-year-old boy by the time it was done, So
that and you even said Vaseline. You even said Vaseline.
Oh yeah. Excuse me. So how do people find you, sir? Because we need to make sure everybody knows all about where you're from and what you're up to.
Well, I've got a YouTube channel. It's Kentucky Sustainable Living. We've got our Facebook group too. We try to keep the Facebook group mostly just Kentucky residents, pretty much, just because it was set up for Kentucky residents, and I'm not trying to be ill-headed or anything about it, but we try to keep that for Kentucky residents. The best thing, if you want to get on our YouTube channel and subscribe to it, my email's on there. You're welcome to email me. I answer every email, try to answer every comment that's on there, and be active in it, to where if you've got a question, I want to try to help you out with it.
And I put, guys, I put Jason's YouTube link in both the video description, and if you're listening audio only, guys, in the podcast tomorrow, you can grab it there too. So make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel, because he puts out some good shit, I'll tell you.
And I'm trying to get as many videos as I can. I've heard people say to do something in video, it takes 3 times as long, and by God, it does.
You'll get better at it. You'll get a little quicker, but it does. Yes. I mean, that's why sometimes I'll be doing a project. I'm like, nope, I ain't filming it. I just want to enjoy it today.
Oh yeah. I need a little kid to run around with a video camera, just videoing everything I do.
Oh, thank you, Smart Ad. They just sent a super chat over this way for $5.
All right, thank you.
And so if people want to ask you a question or a specific way to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way to actually make contact with you?
The easiest way is probably to send me an email. It's KentuckySustainableLiving@gmail.com. And it is, I'm pretty sure the email's on the YouTube channel. I'm about 99% sure.
It is. I looked. It's in the about section if you look in there.
And that'd be the easiest and the fastest way.
Perfect.
My phone rings too much as it is.
I know. That's why I like text. You and I were texting back and forth. I'm like, I like that, because you can answer it when you have time. I'm not much as I love to do this, I hate doing this. Hate it. I don't know why. So
I do too. Well, I love those people that call you at 9:00 on a Friday night. Oh, can I get a bid for this? It's like, yeah, call me back Monday morning, and he can.
I have a very, very stern voicemail now. After I read the 4-Hour Work Week, I changed my voicemail to, if you don't leave your name, your number, and exactly what you want, you're not getting a call back.
Yeah.
And I call people back on my time at this point, because it is what it is, right?
Oh yeah. When I get home for the day, I turn my phone on silent.
Yes, nothing wrong with that.
Then it's just people that I want to talk to. People in the group is really the only time I answer my phone.
Love it.
So
cool. Well, thank you, Jason. I really appreciate you. You can, if you want to hang in the background for just a second, and I'll shut the show down. And I appreciate it, bud. We'll have you back.
I had a super time. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. I just got to say thank you to Jason one more time for coming on short notice, because, he held the show together for me tonight, and I really appreciate that. So, guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.